Hi, and welcome to DevJams. DevJams is a video podcast where we talk with developers who have built interesting, innovative things using Cloudinary. My name is Jen Brissman, and I'm a technical curriculum engineer here at Cloudinary, and I am joined by Maribel Mullins.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Maribel.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here. And tell us a bit about yourself.
Yep. So I'm a technology partner manager at Cloudinary, and I lead our partner built integrations program. And I don't want to spoil the surprise, but we do have a guest on here called CloudCannon, who they've built a Cloudinary integration with our media library widget and as well as our upload widgets.
So today, as Maribel said, we're so lucky to hear from George Phillips, who is the CTO and co-founder of CloudCannon. So we're going to hear about CloudCannon, hear why it's special, but the short version is it's a visual CMS for content teams, and it really just helps keep everyone on the same page. Developers push directly to Git. And we're going to hear today from George how Cloudinary entered their sphere. So, George, welcome to DevJams.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hey, George. Okay, so tell us a bit about yourself. I know we gave you a bit of an intro, but hearing from you, we'd love to hear who you are, how you got started into tech, and even what inspired CloudCannon.
Cool. First of all, you'll probably notice the accent. I'm a New Zealander. I live in a place called Dunedin in the lower South Island of New Zealand. I work at and co-founded a company called CloudCannon, which I've been working on for about 10 or 11 years now.
Real impressive. Yeah, I also want to hear later how everything's changed in the past 10 years. I'm sure there's been so much growth and you've had a front row seat for all of it. But before we get into that, let's hear a bit about yourself and how you got into tech.
Sure. I started using computers from a pretty young age. I think we had like a green screen computer, DOS only, from the age of 2 years old. I lived in the country, so there wasn't a lot to do. So I spent a lot of time kind of playing around with that and got an early introduction to scripting, and then got introduced to like Windows and all those kind of new things that were coming out. So I got a nice early introduction to early tech, and throughout the years I got to experience like the 90s growth of computers, going through like floppy disks, CD drives. It was awesome. And so a lot of that time was on like PCs, and then went through high school, naturally really enjoyed maths and computers and also cooking. And so when I left school, I really wanted to be a chef, and then realized I didn't like the hours. So I fell back on, and I like using computers. I like doing maths. So I went to Otago University, which is the local university, and studied maths and computer science. I eventually realized I didn't want to do a double major in maths and just wanted to do more programming because that was really fun. And so then got a degree in computer science, and I've been a programmer ever since.
Amazing. I love that. Sometimes it's good to try other things because then you learn what you really want and what you really like. And then it makes you appreciate it even more that you are where you are. So yeah. CloudCannon, first of all, we tell all of our listeners who don't already know, what is CloudCannon?
Yeah, CloudCannon is quite a new approach to a content management system. Instead of having to build your website into a content management system, we sit on top of your code. So we connect to Git, and there's a lot of static site generators these days and static websites, and they are a fantastic way to manage websites because you put all your complexity like at the build time rather than at the serve time. So in the end, you get a static website, which is really fast, really performant, really secure. There's nothing to patch. You're not worrying about things like when you're working with WordPress. If you've got 10 websites, they can sit there and they'll stay up. They'll be fine. Like you need to patch the underlying server that's hosting them if you're doing that. But otherwise, you spend a lot of time building the HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So we really believe that's the right way to build a website in most cases. What we found difficult when my co-founder and I were starting out was we built websites in that way. We got classically taught at university to write HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This is how browsers load websites. So once you go out and try and build some websites, you realize the complexity blows up. You need to learn about domain names, DNS, content management systems. You suddenly need to learn PHP because WordPress was the thing in the day. And so, and it's like a computer science major, you'd think that you've got these tools, but there's so much more to it. And then you end up with this system that you've got to patch all the time. It's slow, and you've got to spend a lot on server time, which as a poor student you didn't really have. So what we wanted to do was build these static websites. And then you immediately run into the issue that the people around you, the people you're building those websites for, can't update them because they don't want to write HTML and CSS and JavaScript. They want something like form inputs that they can write content into and then have that update their website. So that was the thing that incepted building CloudCannon. It's like, let's have all that cool stuff about building static websites and solve the problem of a content management system that can sit on top of those complicated technical ideas. Let's remove the complexity of Git. Let's remove the need to know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then we started going a bit further and started thinking like, well, what if people didn't need to look at a form field and look at where it is on the website? What if people could just get it on the website and that figures out where in the code to push back to? We're really trying to bring a world where developers are happy and the contributors to those websites are happy as well.
Yeah, it just seems like you wanted to make everything easier. And then also when you introduce media, like images, videos into the equation, it's even harder to manage. Maybe Maribel can talk about that integration and how that even happened.
Yeah. So I think we've had a few joint customers interested in using Cloudinary within CloudCannon. And I think we got to talking as far as like how to make that happen. And they were able to quickly just spin something up and integrate it. So that was like really fast and really beautiful the way they've gone about it. So I'm excited for George to show the demo of how it works.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, before we jump into the demo of how everything works and what you built and how Cloudinary has entered your equation, what was your need for Cloudinary, or how did you find out about it? What were you trying to solve by using Cloudinary?
Yeah, it's the same inspiration that CloudCannon came from. Is the right place to store your code and content is in a place like Git, because that makes it really easy to manage code and content. Cloudinary makes it really easy to manage images. So it continues our philosophy of letting people store things in the right place that they want to. So it was a lot of our customers came to us saying, hey, can you integrate with Cloudinary? I like to have all my images in there. It gives me like the resizing APIs and the transformations. And some of our customers are really used to the widgets that allow them to crop and do all those sorts of things. So out of the box, CloudCannon gets a really good image experience. And our customers get to continue using the technology they want. Again, like not having to buy into, I need to reshape my world now to build all my stuff into this other system. We can just pair the two programs together that do a really nice job and make everyone's life a lot easier.
Easy. Okay, great. Well, that's a great answer. I'd love to show all of our viewers what you've built and get a functionality demo of CloudCannon and then the part that Cloudinary comes into that.
Perfect.
Before we go into the demo, George, can you touch upon why would customers use Cloudinary as opposed to just hosting their assets elsewhere within your platform?
When it comes to hosting images, quite a lot of the time you want to host the raw image and make sure that quality is maintained, because eventually you want to crop that down and use it in multiple locations. When you store raw images within Git, you often start hitting file size limits. So if you come to a GitHub repo, for example, and you start hitting things, a repo that's got about 1 gig of file size, you'll start getting slower and slower clone times, slower push times, and that starts cutting into the developer experience. The other side of it is that if you hit 2 gigabytes on platforms like Bucket, for example, they will stop you pushing. So there's like hard limits, soft limits all over the place. And yeah, if you're starting to store like full res video or like full res 4K image assets, you want to make sure that you've got an easy way to crop those and create the different variations of that. And I think with those in combination, it makes sense to consider using a digital asset manager like Cloudinary once you start using higher resolution.
And are you using a CloudCannon, Cloudinary for images and videos?
Some of our customers are doing that. The nice thing about the integration is that they get to choose. So if they have a video input, they can configure their widget to only allow certain file types from Cloudinary, just through configuration with our system, which passes through that configuration into the widget options.
We'd love to see a demo if you have one prepared for us, where we can see the functionality of CloudCannon and then how Cloudinary enters the equation.
Yep, sounds great. So here's CloudCannon. I'm currently using our template called Send It. It's a Hugo-based template, and here are all the files. So there's a config.toml, and what happens on CloudCannon is you hand over the files. We can connect to Git. So you connect to us as an extra node within your Git ecosystem. Because it's a distributed system, everyone kind of gets their own environment. And this is like another local dev environment, but set up for your editors. You can track things like, it's like a full CI/CD platform. Whenever you connect to a Git provider, we'll listen to webhooks and changes on those and pull in the latest changes. Every time we pull in the latest changes, we run your build, just like any other CI/CD platform. So this one here is configured to run Hugo, and you can see all the build output. If I rebuild this, it will show me live the build output, just like a local terminal. There's kind of two halves of CloudCannon. Is we're trying to mirror a development environment, and then we're trying to put a layer on top of that to make sure that the non-developers who are contributing to your Git repo now feel safe and welcome and like they can contribute. You know, there's a lot of technical barriers when it comes to working in a Git repo. You've got to have a terminal, you've got to have concept of what the files are, where they are, and CloudCannon provides this layer of translation between a lot of these developer concepts and the non-developer concepts. So that's finished my build. Hugo's really fast, and I can view a live demo of this. Every time it builds, it pushes out to a hosting environment. So this is like your local host, but this one's a cloudbent.net site. And so I can see exactly what the build output is going to be from my site. And that's fully static, so that's super fast, secure.
This is awesome. Is it possible that you can now show us the non-developer side of things?
Yeah. So what we're working with over here is there's a translation between the raw files and what we call collections. So I've got a collection of articles here. Each one this is a blog section of the website. So if I quickly jump over to the website, I can go to the blog and I can look at all these posts. So this is a really common thing on a lot of marketing websites. I click into this, it's got an image up the top. It's got a title, the author, when it was published, and all of the words. So within CloudCannon, we produce this interface from a bunch of configuration that the developer has given us to say, these are articles, here's an icon you should use, this is what you should use to display its subtext. We screenshot every page so that non-developer can come in and go, oh, that's the blog post I was working on. So I can see that here. And then when I click into this, this is one of our mini editors. This is our content editor. And so this gives you something that resembles Google Docs. You can edit away, you can turn things into bold, italic, the WYSIWYG experience we've all grown pretty used to. On the left-hand side, this is the data on the page. So this is actually converting. On the right-hand side, we're talking about Markdown, and I don't know I'm writing Markdown. I don't know. I just surrounded that helps text and a couple of stars, and that's magically made it bold. I've removed that concept of having to know that stuff. On the left-hand side here, this is YAML, another language our non-developers would have to learn if they wanted to contribute to the site. Now they just get inputs. So to edit the title, I can say, hey, Cloudinary. And then if I hit save, it's going to create a Git commit and update my website. So I'll do that. and that triggers another build. And from what we saw before, that's going to take about 20 seconds. And then once that's done, I can reload my website and I can see it happening. For the non-developers, they don't actually get to see this terminal. Because I'm a developer, I can look at the output, I can start optimizing my build, I can see exactly what's gone wrong. If something goes wrong, I can debug the error just like if something popped up in my local terminal. And that's complete. So I've updated the title, and now the next thing I want to do is update the featured image at the top of the page. This is an image input, and you can configure any one of your YAML variables to be any type of input. This one is configured to be an image, and my site is configured to use Cloudinary. So I've disabled the option to upload to the Git repo, and Cloudinary is my only option. To my editors now, I get a transparent experience of using Cloudinary. I get to come in here and upload a new image, and because it's connected to Cloudinary, I get the upload widget. Within here, I can go to Unsplash, and I'm going to use a new image. I'm going to go to food and drink, and I quite like this one with the MacBook in the middle of it. I'm going to select my size and upload that. When I am configuring CloudCannon with Cloudinary, I can define my upload presets, and I can define my upload presets per input as well. So when I hit save, this is going to save that change to my text file, which is referencing my Cloudinary image. If I had the correct upload preset there, I could prevent it from being too big. I could have it crop it down. I could have default transformations. I can do a lot of things to just take away the decisions that could potentially break my website. One of the cool things about CloudCannon is it gives control, but you can kind of control how much control is given so that you can make decisions which are best made about how your code handles the new URLs. If I come over here, I can refresh, and I've got my new title, and I've got my new image, which is really cool. It looks nice, and it loaded really quickly. It's got no transformations, but it's working really well. In the code, it shows this is the YAML and the markdown I was talking about. Here's my title update, and here's my image path update. And so it's referring to the Cloudinary URL exactly as I uploaded it.
Cool. So this would be really easy for someone non-technical to just go in, make this change, and then everything's happening behind the scenes for them and updates immediately.
Is there any chance that you can show us the media library widget and what all that entails?
Sure. So in here, I have the same image with the featured image that was too full. And now I can use the media library to select the same image and crop it down and make sure it all works properly. So I can click on here, and instead of using upload, I can use explore. Clicking on this gives me the option to open the Cloudinary widget, which is a button within our ecosystem. And then when we open the Cloudinary widget, we get to pass it a JavaScript callback, which then we can capture the URL and enter back into our system. So I want to choose this one. I'm just going to double click that. For this example, I'm going to add a circle version instead of the full size image. Once it's returned, it shows me the image that I had selected. But once it's placed back into our ecosystem, it shows the new circle image, which has updated the URL with all of the good transformation things. The auto, the width, the fill.
Yeah, I see RMax in there, which rounded the corners.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Cloudinary doesn't really, it's just getting past the URL. And so that's the beauty of the integration, is that we can hand off all that cool functionality to Cloudinary and get all of that for our users that use it. If I hit save, that's going to commit that new URL back to my repository. And as a non-developer, I haven't really had to interact with anything code-based. I've just got to interact with the CloudCannon interface, the Cloudinary interface, and then I'm hitting save, creating a commit, editing code without even realizing it. And then I wait for my site to build, and I can load my new site with my circle image up there.
And what I really like is what you just said, you're editing code without even realizing it. There are other static site generators where you could be making a change like that, but you can't also see the code. And I like that here it's really friendly to everyone and every type of user where you can see the code in here too. If you wanted to debug something, you could go do that and look at the code as you did before.
As I talked about earlier, this is only one of our editors, and some content like blog content does lend itself to a simpler Google Docs style editing or a Word doc editing experience like this. We also have our visual editing, which makes it even easier for people who are not comfortable with code or making that association, being able to see exactly what their change is before they hit. If I come to this hero block up top here, I can click on the page and I can edit this content.
Cool.
Welcome to our page, and that edits it immediately, runs it through the same building system that the code is going to do once I save and run the CI/CD. And this also integrates with Cloudinary. So I'm actually going to go this one here, and I want to make it square. Beautiful. That looks great. I can now hit save, which will commit the code back, and I don't really need to open my page because I already know what it's going to look like.
And so how hard or how easy was it to integrate with our Cloudinary widgets?
Yeah, the Cloudinary documentation is fantastic. One of the hardest pieces of integrating is probably just figuring out what data you've got to store in your system to get the authentication through. So for connecting to Cloudinary, we have this feature called Assets, which is a way for our customers to store the information that Cloudinary requires to authenticate. On this page is the one I've already got set up. It has fields that are clearly documented in the Cloudinary documentation, the cloud name, the username, the API key, and the API secret. Everything above that is all to do with the way that you want to configure that connection. Within Cloudinary, I can go to my dashboard, and here it shows me the credentials that is required for connecting through. It's got a handy copy and paste button, and I can put that into integration. The great thing about integrating here is that the same credentials are required for integrating with the widget as it is integrating with the API. And we offer both.
So you showed us how the admin page worked. Can you show us how you actually did the hookup of like how you're authenticating into Cloudinary?
Sure. I'm happy to run through some of the code. A lot of the magic actually comes from the Cloudinary gem itself. So our backend API runs on Ruby on Rails. A lot of other code bases are in Node.js. So it was really useful that Cloudinary had a gem available. So that's available on GitHub. We just bundle and install this. Any new versions come through, we update through that. And that makes it really easy. Some of the interesting things about using the Cloudinary DAM is how we keep it secure. So like when you use the upload widget, you don't actually want to just have the API secret sitting in the front end because that means someone could just inspect or try and read from their browser memory. You kind of want to treat the browser as a lower trust environment or a non-trusted environment. Cloudinary offers a really cool thing called signatures. So we can sign the request and create a short to live token that we can pass to the front end. So if someone does take it, we know that they had permission to do that thing at some point in time. And that if they stop having permission, they only have permission for like 5 more minutes. So the window of someone abusing that system is really small. You'd basically have to go in, be a legitimate user, and then within 5 minutes become an aggravated attacker of the platform, or have a man in the middle of attack, which, you know, as they're already stealing your credentials in that kind of way, it becomes a lot less of an attack vector, essentially. It's the same idea as using a short-lived token or something like that. So here's some of the code, what we do for the upload credentials. So we've got a lot of things in here. We call each connection to an external partner a DAM, Digital Asset Manager. And within that, we have like the config that we showed within the admin panel. So we can pull through the Cloudinary, we can pull through the upload preset that's defined, and we can use the access key here. And we can also use the access secret. And that's the key, is that this comes from our database. We can't hash the access secret because we actually need to use the unencrypted value, but we can certainly store it encrypted. And that way we can just pass it from us to Cloudinary, and we know our customers' secrets are safe.
So I see in line 100 as well as line 89, you're talking about this upload preset. What did you include in your preset, or is it just signed upload preset for security?
So this is a user-defined upload preset that allows them to define which folder things go into, what transformations are applied, a bunch of different things. Yeah, we can just hand that off, and we have to build interfaces around being able to set your upload preset.
Thanks so much for showing this to us, because I feel like for anyone listening who might be interested in integrating with Cloudinary, we've never really had a DevJams episode that talks about integration in this way. And just to see this one code file, as far as I know, that makes it all work and connects it and authenticates is really cool. So thanks for sharing this with our audience.
Yeah. And I love this because I know with our media library widget, it's not necessarily that you need the API secret, but because you're doing multiple things like not with the upload widget and, transformations and different presets, like that's why you're collecting the secret. So I love that you're pushing the envelope a little further and doing something a little different. So yeah, I like this.
Yeah. One of the cool things we did was some people didn't want to use the widget. It provided too much control.
Oh.
So we actually offer to use our internal file. As a system that works with files, we have a file browser. And so one of the cool things of working with Cloudinary is it offers the widget for convenience and all those cool things that we just talked about, but it also has an API. So for the people that don't actually want to apply the transformations in the Cloudinary widget, they can connect to CloudCannon using the Cloudinary API. And here's an example of fetching the Cloudinary logic. So we kind of page through each page and return that as a JSON object, which is compliant with our file browser in the front end. That means that when people select them, they're just selecting the file. It's stripped away a lot of other things. Developers can force which folder is used specifically and cut down the interface a lot more. And then they can code the transformation into their website rather than making that an editor choice. We just offer both, but the Cloudinary gem actually has the API and the widget resources. It was pretty nice to plumb through once we had all the credentials and the database set up.
Thank you for showing us that code. Now to kind of wrap it up, I wanted to ask you what you think of using a cloud service in general, and not just Cloudinary, but really any cloud service or Cloudinary. I wanted to know if you had any roadblocks or anything you learned along the way that might be helpful to share with our viewers.
Yeah, sure. When you're working with a cloud service, the first thing you've got to figure out is how to authenticate with that system. And most systems follow the same patterns. They are either OAuth connected, and so then you get your users to connect through an OAuth provider, and then the keys are shared as a response through that, which you can then store the key and maybe a refresh token. Or they provide you an API key and an API secret, which your user has to fill out in a form. That was the option that we had to go for with Cloudinary. Well, maybe not the option we had to go for, it's the option we went with. And this works really well. Once we've got that authenticated, then it's about how do we connect to the API and start integrating. Not everything offers a widget, so the widget really sped up the initial development. I think that was the first version we had. So then it was the question of how do we get those credentials securely passed to the widget, and then the widget kind of spins up. That's not necessarily the order that we developed it in. I think initially we grabbed some code, grabbed our own credentials, pasted them into a static website and had a look at it working. And then once you know all the pieces will kind of line up, once you've got it done, you can just truck it in and make a production ready version of that, the integration. So yeah, as a cloud service ourselves, and we have a lot of other integrations with Git providers. That was very comfortable.
So George, what's next for you? What's next for CloudCannon?
CloudCannon keeps us all pretty busy over here. It's a big product, and we're continuously working on it. We've got a big editor release, and the internet is just always changing. We feel very passionately about static site generators and making sure the web is a better place. We want to make editors and developers both happy and contributing on a great system like Git, and empowering people to continue to use the software that they truly want to use. If you want to use Cloudinary with CloudCannon, feel free to get in touch. You can also book a demo, and we would be happy to talk to you. We're always passionate about talking to people who are in the industry. We'd love to help out and make people's lives easier. We've managed to help a lot of people, a lot of big companies that have to manage a lot of websites, and often those people are under-resourced and spending way too much time working on the frustrating parts of web development rather than building the things clients see.
So with that, George, thank you so much for your time today. It was such a treat to have you here, and I hope that our viewers have learned a lot. I know I have. So we'll be in touch, and we'll keep our ear to the ground for anything that's changing and any updates happening with you and with CloudCannon.
Yep. Thank you very much for having me. It's been great to talk and meet you both. I hope people have enjoyed the talk.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Talk soon.
See ya. Bye.
Okay. Maribel, that was awesome. What are some of your takeaways from that really cool chat with George?
Yeah, I loved how CloudCannon is integrating with our upload widget, our media library widget. I don't know if many people know that these widgets exist, and that's an easy way to implement with Cloudinary, right? And yeah, what was impressive is from chef, I picked up that he wanted to be a chef. So from chef to CTO, George is still cooking in the kitchen, and he's taking content from everywhere and being able to create a masterpiece of a website for people. So I love that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love that CloudCannon. They're using Cloudinary for images and videos. And like you said, the media library widget and the upload widget, it's a very comprehensive use of our technologies. Another takeaway for me is just seeing how easy it is to integrate, and that there isn't this like huge barrier to entry if you are a company or just a developer who wants to create some sort of integration with Cloudinary. It isn't like jumping through hoops as I might have thought that it would be. Especially if I was first starting, or if I wasn't first starting but had never had some sort of integration, I would think it takes more than what I've learned it actually takes. So that was a cool takeaway for me. Yeah, so with that, I would be remiss to not mention that we have tons of other DevJams episodes where there's lots to learn and so many different topics. That's something I was thinking as we were recording with George today, is that we really have a huge variety of guests and topics that we cover on DevJams. So if you're interested in checking out any of the other episodes available, they can be found anywhere you find podcasts. And something else I wanted to mention is we have a community at Cloudinary. So community.cloudinary.com. We also have a Discord. Everything's free to be part of, and you can talk to both Cloudinary users and Cloudinary employees alike. There's a lot to learn, and it's just a fun way to see what other people are up to who also use Cloudinary. Okay, so with that, Maribel, I wanted to thank you so much for joining and being part of DevJams to host. It's been really cool to have some of our tech partners on here. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been really fun, and I look forward to the next podcast.
Yes, me too. To all of our listeners, thank you, and see you next time.